All rise.
I want viewers watching my show to believe in themselves.
Judge Hatchett is compelling.
I was not the first one to throw a walk.
Let me just tell you what you just said.
Compassionate.
I really enjoy being a judge. Now I am touching people who I will never know I touched.
She's powerful.
You should have never let them walk out of your life when she was 3.
And she's on the bench.
Don't get me preaching up in here today.
Right.
You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Quentin Johnson is suing James Bayer in the amount of $360. Mr. Johnson claims Mr. Bayer was jealous that he was dating their mutual friend and says the defendant retaliated by towing his car. Mr. Bayer is countersuing for $250.
Oh, this is complicated.
That's right, Your Honor.
I mean, there is a time when the 3 of you all, I understand from this complaint, were all good friends, good buddies, and it just went all left, south, downhill, however you describe it. So you are suing the defendant now for $360, and you have a counterclaim for $250. We're going to start with you. Quentin, what happened?
I'm suing James over here because he unreasonably towed my car and incurred a very malicious parking ticket for $360 total.
And the basis for your counterclaim is what, James?
I'm countersuing for $250 for rideshare rides I had to take to get to work because his car was blocking mine.
How do you all know each other?
We've been friends for about 2 years. We were video game buddies. We'd play LAN parties together, Mario Party, Super Nintendo, and we were inseparable. And about a year ago, she moved in to James's house, and things were fine. You know, we'd hang out. I'd crash on the couch occasionally, but it became a contention, a problem, when about 6 months ago, me and Katie started dating.
Wait, so let me understand.
Sure.
So Katie, stand up, Katie. You all are a couple. Come and stand.
Yes.
You all are a couple, is that correct?
Yes.
And Quentin and James were good buddies.
All 3 of us were
All
best
3
friends.
of you all were good buddies. All right. And then you and James are roommates?
Correct. I rent a room in his house.
And it's a house that I own, Your Honor.
It's a house that you own. Katie is renting a room there. If you all are in the house, it's your house, you're renting a room there, how is Quentin there?
He stays over and he stays with me.
So he's your boyfriend and he stays there?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So tell me how things started going bad. What happened?
Well, like I said, for the first, 6 months of her living there, it was no problem because we weren't dating. And I suddenly noticed that James here got a little more hostile, a little more less friendly as we progressed into dating. And I came to find out 2 months into our relationship that he had asked her out before moving into the apartment.
So you had asked Katie out on a date before she started renting a room in your house?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. And she said no.
And she said no?
Yes.
And was that the end of it?
Yeah, that was it.
And so if he had asked you out, you still decided to rent a room in his house? And you were comfortable with that?
It seemed like he had, put it all behind us, and we were adults, so I figured it's not awkward. I might as well move in. The rent's cheap, and I need that in LA.
How did the 3 of you all know each other?
So I met James through a mutual friend that we that we met at an event, and then I've been friends with Quentin for a while too. So when James said, "Oh, I have a room for rent. Do you want to move in?" I said yes. But before that, he had asked me out, and he's obviously still in love with me, and he still wants to, be with me.
That's not true.
Did you ask her again after that?
No.
Was that one and only time?
Just that once. She said no. That was it.
And that was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So now you're there.
Mm-hmm.
At what point now did you start dating Quentin?
Me and Quentin started dating about 6 months ago. And then after we started dating, that's when James started taking it out on him by...
How so?
Quentin works late hours, so he'll park behind James. James parks in the middle. He has a long driveway, and all three of us will park in the driveway. So Quentin parks behind James, and then James works in the morning. So the agreement was that James would call Quentin or text Quentin and ask him to move his car. But now he's trying to make Quentin pay for all these rideshare bills. He moved Quentin's car across the street when there was street sweeping, so he gave him a ticket.
Wait. All right, so now instead of having one person renting a room, you've got another person in the house, which technically you didn't agree to, but he's there.
Well, I'm not going to say that she can't have a boyfriend over, but
Got it.
I don't. But the problem is that they're saying that I am causing a rift between us. That is not true, Your Honor. Quentin is the one causing the rift because he seems to believe, at least, that dating Katie gives him certain rights to my house. He is outside of the parking behind me. He seems to believe that it's okay to come in into the house loudly early in the morning, have the TV loud, and eat from my fridge and not do the dishes.
Oh, that seems like a problem to me.
Coming up on The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
Maybe plan ahead a little bit before, you know.
Wait, maybe
In
you
my
set,
house.
wait. Maybe you set your damn alarm so you get up at 6:30 and move your car.
The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Quentin Johnson, who is suing James Bayer for $360.
Have you all sat down to try to work this out before you got to my courtroom?
Your Honor, multiple times we've tried to communicate, and James has repeatedly, instead of just saying an issue, instead of confronting us, he's either passive-aggressively texted or with the ride shares, for example. I was parking behind him, okay? And a couple times...
Okay, so let's start there because I want to make sure that we are all clear about this. So now you show up at about what time in the morning?
About 3 in the morning, Your Honor.
About 3 in the morning.
Yes.
And you park behind his car.
That's right.
All right? So now he's got to go to work the next morning, and what happens?
Well, a couple times I tried to wake him
In the morning, and he could move it.
Okay, so did you do that?
I did, and it worked some of the time.
What happened on the first time that you had to do the ride share? What happened? Why did you have to do the ride share?
Well, I tried texting him, and I got no answer. I knocked on her door, still no answer, and the door was locked, so I couldn't go in and try and shake him awake.
Right.
So.
And you had to be at work.
And I had to be at work very soon. I was going to be running late, even if he had come out at just that moment.
All right, so then you say, okay, he's not responding to my text. He's not responding to the knock on the door, and you had to do ride share.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why is that unreasonable then that he had to do ride share?
I think it's circumstantial that he was knocking on the door because neither of us ever heard him knocking on the door. And when you hear a text message, it's very faint, you know, a slight buzz. I mean, he could have called, he could have said, hey, I need my stuff, you know, you need to move, I need to, you know, get to work, you know, and he's saying he's running late, you know, maybe plan ahead a little bit before, you know.
Maybe you set, maybe you set your damn alarm so you get up at 6:30 and move your car. Why does all of this have to be on him when you're blocking his car?
No, you're right, Honor. I made efforts, okay? Towards the end, we had issues, and I tried to set alarms, but at that point, it had become, you know, point of no return.
Set alarms? Either you tried or you did it. What happened that got this to the tipping point that it was necessary to have the car towed? So how many times did this go on?
It happened 6 times, which comes to 12 rides. 1 ride to work and 1 ride back to work.
Okay, so now we have ride share.
And I have the bill here.
And you have the
Your
bill.
Honor.
Let me see those, please. So was there some new arrangement according to the complaint that you made a key?
Well, the first time that he had a ride share, I agreed to pay for it. And then, you know, he came to the assumption, I think, that because I paid for it the first time and I felt bad, that whenever he couldn't wake me up, he just assumed that I'm going to pay for all these ride shares. And as you can see, there's quite a few, and it's quite a bit of money. Instead of just talking, instead of just communicating. So we got into a big fight because he wants me to pay for that. We offered to put a key on the counter so he wouldn't have to knock on the door, wouldn't have to, you know, be uncomfortable by the situation. He could move the car, and then that's it. No issues, you know, put the key back, and that was that, we thought.
And what went wrong with that plan? Katie, what happened with that plan?
Well, James took the key, moved Quentin's car, and he moved it across the street because he found a spot. But the spot that he found was, there were street signs all around saying don't park between this time and this time because there's street cleaning, and the tickets, if your car is parked there, they're
So
pretty
that's where the
expensive.
ticket came in.
That's right.
All right, so we have a ticket now. And then at some point, though, the car got towed, apparently.
I got the ticket, and I mean, he's lived there for 2 years, doesn't pay attention to street sweeping. I think he did it maliciously because of the past that we've had, because I'm dating Katie. And when I confronted him about it, he says, well, you know, I all this money for ride shares, you know, we could just consider it even because, you know, you owe me for that, and the ticket, it's not my responsibility to pay. So, you know, it was ridiculous. So once again, another fight. And this time, Katie and I make a deal. We're going to have 2 keys to make sure that at any point, one of us will take the car and move it. Well, I had work a couple days later after we made the key, and I had just gotten off of a late night shift, and I had a couple beers to unwind. And I got called into work. I go into work, I come back, and my car's gone.
Coming up,
I was also tired of taking ride shares. I called the towing company and had them come and tow it.
All right, so
He
let's...
didn't text or call or anything. He just towed it.
network featuring dynamic judges and live legal programming,
Well, we're not at your school, we're in my courtroom.
unique court shows,
Where is any information about the company?
live legal news,
That's what you should have done.
and a commitment to justice.
Either you tried or you did it.
The next generation of court programming in one dynamic network. Justice Central. You're watching Justice Central. Stay tuned. You're watching Justice Central. Coming up at 10:30, watch America's Court with Judge Ross. Then catch a double dose of We the People, followed by Supreme Justice with Judge Karen at noon. The verdict is in, right here on Justice Central. You're watching Justice Central. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Quentin Johnson, who is suing James Bayer for $360.
And what happened with the car?
I went out to see. His star was still behind mine, and I did what I normally did. I went to see if his key was there. It wasn't. I knocked on their door.
The door was ajar.
No answer. Her door was slightly ajar, so I just slightly peeked my head in. I saw her sleeping, and he was nowhere to be found. At that point, honestly, Your Honor, I was completely at my wit's end. I had had it. I didn't care what his excuse was, and I didn't want to wait around any longer to see if he would come back and move it before I had to get to work. I was also tired of taking ride shares, so I called the towing company and had them come and tow it.
All right, so let's...
He didn't text or call or anything. He just towed it. And when I called him to talk to him about it, he hangs up on me.
So now we have a bill for $250 for the ride share, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's your. Out of this $360, how much of it is a ticket?
It's $60. I have the evidence right here, Your
Okay,
Honor.
let me have that, please. So out of the $360 that you're claiming, $60 is for
The ticket.
$250 is for the towing.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then $50 is for the storage fee.
Yes.
Right? And could we not have worked out, I'm going to rule on this case, could we not have worked out a better arrangement?
Coming up,
Why don't you get your butt up out the bed and move the car every morning?
The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Quentin Johnson, who is suing James Bayer for $360.
You come in at 3 o'clock in the morning from your shift, you park behind his car, and then you don't get up. You know, he says he texts you, he knocks on the door. He shouldn't have to stand there. First of all, it's awkward. You know, you're in there with your girlfriend. He's got to come and bang on the door, kick on the door, scream and holler. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why not set the dang gone alarm and get up and move the damn car?
Your Honor, I did. I made efforts to do
No,
that.
you didn't. No, you didn't, because if not, if you had done that, the car wouldn't have been behind his car. He wouldn't have had to take the ride shares, and he would not have had this problem. The burden shouldn't be on him to make this work for your convenience. You're the one who's overspending the night at their place, which, is your business, which is fine if that's what you all are going to do. But it shouldn't impact James, right? And so you need to either park on the street, and if it's a street
There's no
cleaning
parking,
day,
Your Honor, at all. No parking.
no parking. So why should James have to knock on the door? I'm going to ask it again. Why should James have to knock on the door every morning before he goes to work to get you to move the car?
He didn't have to. He did it for a couple months, and then we tried to make the situation better by leaving the key for him.
Couple of months. Why should James have to move the car at all? Why don't you get your butt up out the bed and move the car every morning? I mean, wouldn't that be the courteous, considerate thing to do?
Judge Hatchett's verdict when we return.
You all strike me as being very selfish in this situation and thoughtless in this situation and really focused on what was best for the two of you and really didn't give a damn about what James was feeling or thinking or how this was impacting him and the fact that he has to get to work every morning. You're coming in the house at 3 o'clock, he's got to be up by 6:30, and then you expect him to be the one out there making all these moves back and forth with the car. That's not reasonable. The first time this first happened, the thoughtful thing to have done was to have set your alarm and to be up when he was up, knowing what time he has to leave, and you make the switch of the cars. That would have been the thoughtful thing to do. I think you all were so into each other that you really didn't give a damn what he was thinking. So I am dismissing your claim for $360. Okay. I don't think that you should get a dime in this courtroom today. And I am awarding James the counterclaim of $250 because I think that you all were thoughtless. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $250 and your primary claim of $360 is hereby dismissed. If there's nothing further, we'll stand adjourned.
All rise.
Judge Hatchett has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff has been ordered to pay $250.
I think it was absolutely unreasonable, but the judges made a decision.
I'm happy with the judge's decision. The least you can do is take responsibility for your car at my house.